When I was 19, I read a book that changed my life. That book was On the Beach. These are the words of Helen Caldicott. Written by Australian author Neville Shute, the novel is about the aftermath of a nuclear war, how it affects people everywhere. It is quite obvious that this book influenced Caldicott, as she is now one of the world's most well-known and respected anti-nuclear activists working today. Born Helen Mary Bronowski in Melbourne, Australia in 1938, she was the eldest of 3 children. Helen's father was the manager of a factory, and her mother was an interior designer. Both parents classed open-mindedness and the arts to be quite important. She excelled in her school subjects, but found it difficult to make friends, spending most of her time by herself. She says that being alone during her childhood years made her more independent, and that she could handle any situation that arose because of it. Helen knew what she wanted to be at a young age. She recalls crawling into her parents' bed on a Sunday morning and saying, "I'm going to be a doctor. I can help more people that way." And that's exactly what she did. When Helen was growing up back in the 1940s, women's roles in society were still thought to be at home, but not in all cases. Around the time of Helen's childhood, the Australian Council of Trade Unions adopted an equal pay principle. Also, women were becoming more political, with Dorothy Margaret becoming the first woman senator, and Enid Muriel Lyons becoming the first woman member in the House of Representatives. There were other women who excelled quite similarly, and it seemed that Helen was exposed to this, no doubt because of her open-minded parents, and it encouraged and inspired her to aim high, regardless of her gender. In many cases though, women are still confined to a certain way of life because of what is known as gender. Gender isn't just physical, it is, more than ever, a social construct. When a child is born, a girl has a pink room and a boy has a blue room. Already, defining the gender is apparent. Boys are told to be strong, playing in the sandpit with a toy truck, dreaming of one day operating the real piece of machinery, while girls sit in their room, quietly playing tea party with their dolls. This is setting the children up for life. It isn't the parents' fault either, because they were brought up the exact same way. Society has made us what we are today. Especially so because of the patriarchal culture that we have. Men are making the rules, and not just for other men, they are making the rules for everyone. Luckily, Helen broke free of her constraints, and makes references to the patriarchal aspects of society in most of her books. In 1955, Helen was accepted to study at the University of Adelaide, where she studied medicine. 150 people were accepted. Only 13 of them were women. She graduated 6 years later. Helen's husband, William Caldicott, a paediatrician, was a director of paediatric radiology at the Adelaide Children's Hospital. Once, while visiting her husband at work, Helen realised that the children with cystic fibrosis were practically untreated. She suggested that she knew how to treat the children, but no one would listen, as she was not a trained paediatrician. But, determined to help out, she began training as a paediatric intern, working 8 hours a week. She then passed the exam for the Royal Australasian College of Physicians. In 1975, she founded the Cystic Fibrosis Clinic at the Adelaide Children's Hospital, achieving more than most male doctors achieve in their entire life. But life had only just started out for Helen. She was shortly invited to work at Harvard Medical School, where she treated children with cystic fibrosis. Helen has often spoken about a book that has dramatically changed her life, The Female Eunuch, by famous Australian Germaine Greer. She was profoundly affected by the way Greer told women to have their own mind, and Caldicott admits to, beforehand, not even realising that she had her own ideas. She no longer felt like she needed to say things just to please the male species. She developed the certainty in everything that she did, and there was no room for compromise. This is still evident today. She found out that the French were testing nuclear weapons over the Pacific, and she became extremely outraged by this, as she read an article about the state of Adelaide's water due to the nuclear testing. First, she wrote an open letter to the local newspaper explaining the dangers of the testing. Soon enough, Helen was on television and radio and speaking at public meetings, challenging politicians and officials, most of whom were always males. She slowly but surely started to heighten Australia's awareness of nuclear danger. When she decided that her work here was done, she moved on to the US. When in the US, Helen founded the Physicians for Social Responsibility, an organisation with over 23,000 members dedicated to educating people about the dangers of nuclear weapons. She also made several trips to other countries throughout the world, starting similar organisations, founding the group International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War. In 1985, the group won the Nobel Peace Prize. Helen and her crusade has been the subject for a number of documentaries, including 8 Minutes to Midnight, nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature in 1982, and If You Love This Planet, which won the Oscar for Best Documentary Short in 1983. Also, more recently, Helen's War, which was nominated for an Australian Film Institute Award last year. Plus, she has written several books outlining the dangers of nuclear activity. Sadly, none were bestsellers. So, how can one person achieve all this? In one single lifetime, she's achieved more than most could in two. Yet, she is still not happy with her wins, and certainly not happy with her losers, vowing not to rest until the threat of nuclear danger is gone. Helen has sacrificed her time, her energy, even her marriage, trying to save the Earth. But when her name is mentioned in a conversation, most people have no clue who she is. Why is that? She has started world-renowned organisations, had several books internationally published, and has been the subject of numerous internationally recognised films. Why is it that you didn't have a clue who she was before this presentation started? Do you know who Michael Moore is? Of course you do! He's that funny fat guy who made Bowling for Columbine and Fahrenheit 9/11. He is saying nearly the exact same things as Helen. It is evident, still even today, that women's ideas are in the background, overshadowed by males. So next time you're at a bookshop and you spot Stupid White Men by Michael Moore, look behind it. You'll most likely find The New Nuclear Danger by Dr. Helen Caldicott.